Today I want to talk about 3 sneaky saboteurs that might be silently wrecking your fat loss goals. Now I say sneaky because these are not the obvious things. Most women assume that if fat loss is not happening, it must be because they're not trying hard enough, not eating clean enough, not training enough, or they need to cut more food. And I'll have a lot of women say to me as well, they'll swear black and blue that they're in a calorie deficit, but the weight is not falling off. So this falls into this category too, because it's often after 40, or especially after 40, it's not just about the food on your plate or the workout that you did today. It's also about what is happening downstream. Things like your energy, your hunger, your cravings, your motivation, your ability to show up consistently, and to make decent choices when life gets busy. And that is where today's 3 saboteurs come in. Number 1 is sleep. Number 2 is stress. And number 3, I'm going to save till later because you might automatically discount that as not an issue. But I promise you, if you stay to the end, you will learn these 3 things that could be hampering your efforts despite doing all the right things. These 3 things can subtly make fat loss feel so much harder than it needs to be. And once we are aware of them and we start to manage them, it just is going to make your life a lot easier. If this is sounding familiar, it's not because you're missing a secret hack or a magic supplement or the perfect meal plan, I promise you. It's usually because your body's responding to what is going on around it. Things like poor sleep, high stress, too much restriction, trying to do everything perfectly, all of these things have a knock-on effect. And that's why I'm really not a fan of just the whole eat less, move more approach on its own. Because yes, food and movement matter, of course they do. But after 40, we also need to look at the bigger picture. So your routine, your recovery, your support, your strength training program, whether the plan you're following is something you can actually keep doing, they're the bits that most people are missing. So let's start with saboteur number 1, and that is sleep. It's probably the most common one. And sleep is one of the most underrated fat loss tools. And I know that can feel really annoying because for many women over 40, sleep can be harder than it used to be. So you might be waking up through the night, you might be feeling wired but tired, so you can't get to sleep because your brain's racing even though you're exhausted, or you're getting to bed too late because at the end of the day, that's the only quiet time that you get. But when sleep is poor, it can have a knock-on effect. It can affect your energy the next day, obviously. But when your energy is low, you're probably not going to move as much. You might not even notice that, but just your daily movement, your NEAT is going to drop down. You might skip your walk or drag yourself through training, not be able to put out as much effort, sit a bit more than you usually would, or just generally do a little bit less. It can also affect hunger and cravings. And what happens when you're tired? We've all been there. Your brain, it wants quick energy. So it makes sense that you're more likely to reach for the sweet treats and the salty, snacky foods, or you feel like you need an extra coffee or a little something with it. Those things, if they're happening, it doesn't mean you don't have any willpower. It just means your body is trying to get through the day. So if you're constantly tired and then you're beating yourself up because you keep wanting to snack at 3 p.m. or you're raiding the pantry at night, what I want you to do is zoom out, because the solution is not always to slash your calories again or to add in some more cardio. It might be to look at your sleep routine and ask, am I getting to bed at a realistic time or an optimal time for you? Am I having caffeine too late in the day? Am I having alcohol at night to try to help me get to sleep, which then impacts my sleep quality? Am I scrolling at night? Like, who hasn't been guilty of that before? Scrolling at night right up until you close your eyes to try to zone out or switch off. Am I expecting my body to be able to wind down when I've been rushing all day? So I like to start with these foundations first, because it's not that you need the perfect sleep routine, but even improving your sleep by just a little bit can make it easier to make those better choices the next day. So if you just choose one thing, it might be getting to bed 20 minutes earlier, turning your phone off half an hour before you hit the sack. Maybe it's cutting caffeine after midday, or either putting your phone away 30 minutes before bed. One little bonus hack that I've used with clients before is setting a bedtime alarm, because you can often find yourself scrolling and before you know it, it's 11 p.m. So you set a bedtime alarm and that's the time you switch your phone off. Then you know it's time to go to bed. But it might be also having a proper dinner with protein and fiber, so you're not going to bed still feeling really hungry and snacky and like you're struggling to get to sleep. That one is also important, just as an FYI, if you can't control your sleep environment. So if you listen to all those things, yes, I know all of that, but things outside of my control are waking me up. Like I was talking to one of the girls in this group on messages yesterday who was saying her sleep is terrible, but nothing through no fault of her own. It's because she's got a 7-year-old and a new kitten, and those two things combined means that often you just don't get a good night's sleep. So when those things in our environment are out of our control, and we know sleep, it just is what it is at the moment. If you've got young kids or animals or husband who snores, all of those things, then we can just put into place some other strategies to mitigate the impact of that lack of sleep. So that what I was just saying about the protein and the fiber before bed or throughout the whole day actually can make a big difference, just to put a bit of a dampener on those hunger and cravings that are naturally going to ramp up if your sleep is being poor. So let's go to saboteur number 2, which is stress. Now, who has not, as a woman over 40, which of us is not dealing with a lot of stress right now? And it's a sneaky one, I think, because a lot of people think stress only matters if it's something huge that's happening. But stress, of course, it can be the big things, but it can also be that constant low-level load, like your work pressure, family stuff going on, the mental load, running a household, caring for everybody else, and just feeling like your own needs always come last. And so the tricky thing is, we've got to remember that stress does not directly stop fat loss itself, even though cortisol cops a really bad rap, particularly lately. It's often blamed. But it can absolutely impact the things that drive fat loss. So going back to your energy again, your sleep, there's obviously a big correlation between sleep and stress. Your hunger, your cravings, your consistency. When your brain feels under pressure, it's often going to look for comfort, convenience, and a quick relief. So if you find yourself standing in the pantry at night thinking, why am I doing this again? It might not be a food problem. It might be a stress management problem. And food is the Band-Aid over the stress, right? It's not going to solve it, but it will, for that moment in time, it might feel like it solves it. So I want to be really clear here. I'm not saying you need to remove all stress. Not really realistic, is it? But we do need to stop pretending that low-level stress is not having an impact, because if the plan that you're following or trying to follow only works when life's calm and there's nothing going on, then it's not sustainable. We need to put some things in place that are going to account for these stressors in your life. It's why I'm such a big believer of having some anchors, things like simple meals that we don't have to think about. So when you're rushed and busy and you're not trying to also figure out what's for dinner, simple, repeatable meals. Protein and fiber first to fill you up so you're not dealing with hunger and cravings later on. Strength training that supports your body rather than exhausts it and overwhelms it, rather than doing cardio for an hour every day. When life gets stressful, you don't need a 47-step plan. You just need those anchors. So things like protein at breakfast, simple lunches that you can repeat that you don't have to think about. A walk when you can. Walk is great for stress relief. Might be the last thing you feel like doing, but try it. 2 or 3 strength training sessions a week if that's realistic for you, and a plan for the days when everything is going sideways. I do want to make an important note here, because sometimes we can have all those basics down pat and we're doing them really well, but it's not always just the practical strategies that are going to be the answer to the desire, the urge to raid the pantry at 9 p.m. With my clients who are in the habit of stress eating, who know that that's an Achilles heel of theirs, we work out stress management strategies that disrupt that pattern of binging. It's not just about just have more protein at dinner. Often you can have your protein down, your fiber down, eaten consistently throughout the day. It's not a food problem. It's a behavior problem. So we need some stress management strategies that are going to disrupt that pattern as well. That is also important, just as important, sometimes if not more, than the practical steps as well. Now to saboteur number 3, which I've kept you hanging for, but this is an important one because it might not be something you've even thought about as sabotaging progress, but that is the start over cycle. And this one is huge because honestly, I think this one probably ruins more fat loss results than most people realize. So it looks something like this. You decide, and usually on a Sunday night, you decide, this is it. I'm going to be really good. I'm going to cut out all the foods. I'm going to give up chocolate. I'm going to give up wine. I'm going to train really hard and do more exercise. You do all the things for a little bit of time, maybe a week, maybe 2, maybe a month. Then life happens. So maybe you miss a workout or you have a few off-plan meals. You get busy, you get tired, you get sick, you eat yourself something you told you weren't going to have, and you told yourself you weren't going to have. Then the thinking starts. I've stuffed it up. I've fallen off the wagon again. I may as well start again on Monday. I can't do this. Or this always happens. I need to be stricter next time. And then so you give up for a few days or maybe weeks, and then you start over again. But this time you start with even more rules because you're trying to make up for the last attempt. So you think, if only I can be stricter, if only I can have more willpower, only I can be more disciplined, this time will be different. But the cycle just repeats. We restrict, we fall off the wagon, we give up, we start over. And this is said with so much love, but just, I want you to know this. It's not the one meal out that's ruining your results. It's not the ice cream one-off. It's not the one glass of wine. It's not the birthday cake or the one takeaway or the one missed workout. It's the all or nothing spiral that happens afterwards. That one higher calorie meal is not the problem. Even if the scale is up a kilo the next day, I promise you, you haven't put on a kilo of body fat. It's not that one meal that's the issue. It's turning it into a week of stuff it, I'll start again on Monday. That's where the damage happens. And that's why the start over cycle is such a sneaky saboteur. It feels like commitment because you keep starting over, but really it's keeping you stuck. Because in this scenario, you're always either on or you're off. But fat loss after 40 gets so much easier when you stop needing to start over again every Monday. So instead of having to ask, how do I get back on track on Monday or next week or next month? I just want you to ask yourself, what's the next helpful choice I can make? The very next meal, or go for a walk, or have a glass of water, just something really simple, but that can happen almost immediately, not that's something you have to wait days or weeks to do. So that way there's no drama, there's no guilt, there's no punishment. It's just the next helpful choice, and that is far more sustainable than that start over cycle. So let's bring this all together. If fat loss feels harder than it should right now and you are doing all the things, I want you to look beyond just the calories and the workouts. Ask yourself, how is sleep affecting my energy and my hunger? And is this something I can do something about, even if it's a small step? How is stress affecting my cravings and my consistency? And am I stuck in a start over cycle where that one imperfect choice turns into giving up completely? Once you see these patterns, you can start changing them. And that doesn't mean you're going to be more restrictive. We've just talked about that. Not more restriction, just with a better strategy, with some support and something that's actually sustainable. So my question for you today is, which of these 3 is the biggest sneaky saboteur for you right now, do you think? Sleep or stress or the start over cycle? You can tell I like alliteration, right? So comment on this video which one of those it is, sleep, stress, or start over. Tell me which is showing up for you most right now, and then we can talk about some strategies to make that better. Hope that helps, girls. I will talk to you all soon. Bye.